Welcome to the Three Count Podcast. It's Travis Norbert. That's right.
Welcome everyone to another great edition of the Three Count Podcast presents Now Entering, and now I'm your host, Clifford Red Dog Miller, the man that leads you up that mountain called wrestling. And with this being season 6 and our 410 episode, I would just hope you say it with me. I am your Sherpa, because like your tribal chief, acknowledge me. But you gotta have someone who's been there, done that, and can do it more efficiently. You can. That's why it's never about me. It's about who's entering the ring. So who's entering the ring? This man is a manager. This man is a worker. This man is a commentator. This man is whatever you need him to be. He is showing the business how to make sure everything is being handled properly. He is the leader of the Regulation Nation. He is Travis Norbert.
That's right. Welcome to the Three Count Podcast. And you know what? I went hoarse from screaming at a show in New Jersey, and I'm going to use my real voice now. This is actually how I sound.
It's been so funny because we did that promo and you guys can go find it on my YouTube page, on my personal YouTube page, not the Three Count one. We did that promo, and I remember you and I was like, you kind of sound like you have something. You kind of sound like you have something in your throat. Ever since then, though, it's been wild because Travis, I remember you the first day of you training, and into the most recent encounter of me running into like Nair Robles or Sammy Chaos, and just having conversations with them about you. And I'm like, oh yeah, Travis is my dude.
What? They talk about me? I love them, but I'm shocked that they talk about me. That's a huge compliment.
Oh, and Jermaine Marbury, who
Oh
also
yeah,
has been on the
that no
podcast.
good Kenny the basketball. You keep him away from me, okay? I had to go to therapy over that stupid 5-foot basketball chasing me in the ring. Anyway, um, Sammy Chaos is, of course, Big Van Vader in the ring. Do not get in the way. She is a menace. But
Yep.
behind the scenes, she's a sweetheart. Nair Robles is one of my good friends. We're like this. We're like peanut butter and jelly sometimes. And I'm trying to let her experience more parts in the wrestling world in the Pennsylvania area. So I've been recommending her and everything, and she's made a debut in PPW, and that went really well. But yeah, I'm shocked that I'm coming up in people's conversations because I don't know where my character goes after I do it, like video, or if I'm under the spotlights in the ring. I don't know. Like, okay, yeah, that guy's kind of goofy, he's kind of entertaining, he's funny, but I don't know if people really talk about it or remember it.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get a big head or anything, so I just am shocked, learn about things like that. But yeah, truth be told, you were there for my day one bump. The and it was pretty bad, of course. For those of you that don't know, I trained at Riot City. Cliff was my head trainer on day one, and you're kind of to blame for all this in a lot of ways. um,
Yeah.
but in a good way, in a good way.
Yeah.
So you were there when I was very unhealthy, and I had a lot more weight to me. I was out of breath after taking a couple steps into the ring, and you were one of the guys that were pushing me. You were very supportive, and you were showing me the right way from day one. Never ever forget that. I appreciate it. I don't know if you know that, but I will never forget that, and a lot of appreciation for you, brother.
No, I appreciate that a lot. It's weird because I don't get to train as much as I want to, and so up here, I find places, go find gyms here and there, and then I don't ever talk about the fact that I was yeah, I used to lead all the roles and all the trainings and all the bumps and stuff like that. I did all that stuff. I never talk about it. I just I'm just a guy. I'm just here. Just pick me. Let me be that guy.
Well,
It's not necessary. I'm just I'm in a whole new world. I was let me just let my work ethic speak for itself.
yeah, I get it. But, give credit where credit's due, and I'm actually the guy now, believe it or not, showing some newer kids how to roll, how to take their first bumps. And it's crazy for for me to think back and like, wow, I didn't even think I could ever do like a handstand bump or a flip bump or anything, you know. And you all were pushing me, and you got me to where I actually became a wrestler, and I was actually having wrestling matches. You know, I never thought I'd get there, and credit to you. I'm actually helping your guys come in and get their basics down and everything. So it just blows my mind. Like a good deed that you all did. It went far, and it's me giving back to people first stepping into the business. And I know how I felt. People were sharing parts of the industry craft with me. So it's an honor, you know.
I think it also goes back to you and I. Like we're a lot older in the game. Like we make it no secret that we're like we're not spring chickens, and so we're kind of like we're a lot more patient with people than we rightfully should be. Because like I feel like anywhere else I go, I just see people get pissed off or something happens, right? Some kind of reaction. I
Yeah.
remember I didn't really get into it. I kind of got scolded because like someone if someone's demonstrating something, like I'm not trying to take attention from that person, but they hit me with like a knee to the gut and they're like, don't ever sell like that again. I was like, well, to be fair, you're in the middle of a conversation. Like I'm not trying to take away from your point. So if you want me to reenact said information, then you need to tell me like, yo, react to this instead of just like, hey, I'm in this ring, I'm having a conversation. So it was what it was, cross wires. But no, it goes back to you, man. It's like, you came into this and you were like, hey, like I just wanted to be a manager, and you're like, I just want to do manager things, and I was like, yeah, cool. So I'm gonna teach you how to do stuff, and we're gonna get as good as we can, and then you're just gonna go from there. And I remember like you watching a practice match, and I saw like the little glint in your eye, and I was like, oh, he's there. He's already been bit. And then I remember Sicken like telling me, he was like, yeah, Travis just came to me. He was like, yo, can I do a practice match too? It was like, yeah, this is gonna be a thing that takes off. And sure enough, like there you went. And I was like, oh, damn.
I mean, going back to what you were saying, you and I are older, and when I was first starting to get trained, I think I was 44,
Yeah.
and like I said, I was severely, out of shape. I was about 70 pounds heavier than I am now.
Damn.
I was getting out of breath going up, and I went up with a guy, and it was okay. I want this really athletic guy that was going to go up with me to be a wrestler, and he wanted to do it, and I was just going to support him and be a manager because I. I've been a student of wrestling my whole life, ever since 1986, 87, when my dad used to take me to the Great American Bash in Baltimore City. I used to go to those events, and that was our social media back then. It was MTV maybe if you had money to afford it, but if not, we're doing baseball, football, whatever in the streets, or wrestling. So that's kind of like where I guess the spark came from. But the guy that I was going to go up there with chickened out, and I can't quit once I commit to something. So I said, I don't know if I can curse on your podcast or no,
Yes,
but
you can.
okay.
100%.
I said, fuck it. I'm just going to go up my damn self. And I'll just train to be a manager. And, when I first encountered you in the ring, I thought you were some Navy SEAL or some shit. Like you had all this black and you were very serious and everything. And I was like, this is a serious motherfucker right here. Um, but I saw these other guys doing it, and in the beginning, I had in my mind that I can't do it, and I'm too old, I'm out of shape, and I'm gonna hurt my neck. I have all these ailments or whatever from being older, and you pushed me. Let's do a roll. Okay, I did that. Okay, cool. I'm out of breath, but keep going. Let's try a back bump. Oh my God, Jesus! I don't know if I can do that again. I came back the next week. you know, I pushed a little harder, and slowly but surely, the guys in you would see that, wow, he doesn't move like a 44-year-old. He doesn't look like he's 44. He kind of looks like he's 35 or so. Why don't you try doing this flip bump? Why don't you try doing a handstand? Why don't you try going over the rope? Why don't you try doing an up and over, up and over? And I eventually was able to do it to my own disbelief, and I was like, wow, okay, I can do this. And it was very shocking to me that I could do these things, and I only got there because I was being pushed to my, I guess, comfort level limits at the time.
Yeah.
And that's how you excel, is you get out of those comfort zones, and especially with what you've been trained, your whole life. And it's a little harder when you're older and you have all these established norms in your mind, especially like, um, uh, your natural instinct to protect yourself when you're going down. You kind of like want to protect yourself a different way, and you have to throw all those instincts out of the way, the primal instincts, and say just trust the mat coming down to destroy you. Just trust it. So you get rewired in the brain to do that. So eventually, I, things just started clicking, and I was able to do things I never thought I was able to do, and also going back to our age and being, I guess, more patient with guys. I see it all the time. I see people lose their shit, lose their mind because maybe something didn't go according to plan in the match,
Yeah.
or a spot was forgotten, or I'm trying to train someone or teach someone how to do something and they just don't goddamn get it, and they lose their minds and they get condescending in a way. They get to the level of berating someone. I don't have that in me. And again, maybe it's because of our age or whatever, and I'm more patient. You're always going to have people messing up the matches. You're always going to have spots forgotten. You're always going to have people who have a hard time getting it. I mean, look at me. When you probably saw me the first couple of times, you're like, this guy is probably not going to get it. But eventually, God damn it, I got it. So I feel for guys that I see get berated. And that does occur, unfortunately. And I, I wish it didn't, but I'm kind of glad that you brought it up because I wasn't expecting to talk about it. But it's something that's out there, and it actually irks me, when I see it.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because like with you, when you and I first talked, right? You had said I want to be a manager. I was like, all right, cool. So like when it came to doing manager bumps and stuff like that, I was like, hey man, you just gonna the way you're gonna hit is the way you're gonna hit. We just want to make you as safe as possible when you hit. And so it was like all about like teaching you how to do the rolls, teaching you how to do these. Then when you took a bump, I'd be like, all right, cool, no, that's a great bump. Like, let's try to do this a little bit different and like encourage you. And then all of a sudden, like, I see you start snapping, and I was like, oh yeah, he's really gonna commit to this. And then like
Right.
the crazier part was like the watch the transformation because I left. I remember I moved like probably like 4 or 5 months after you guys had started. I
Mhm.
left. I moved to Massachusetts to watch you like 6 months later, like just the big transformation that you had from like where you were to where you are now, and even like what there, and then even where you are now, like the body shape, like just you know changing the way you eat and the way you work out and stuff. Like I was like, damn. I was like, well, if he's doing it at 44, 45, I was like, I'm turning 40 this year. I was like, I'm definitely gonna like stack on muscle and like start working on my conditioning even harder, like so that way I get in a ring and I don't get blown up by him.
No way. You got bigger guns than I could ever have, sir. I've seen them.
big
Uh,
guns, big guns means a lot more oxygen. Means that I got to work on my cardio even more now, even
yeah,
harder.
yeah. That old thing that they were teaching us, you and Nick, and out of shape, in shape, and ring shape, right?
Hmm.
That's a real thing, and I'm learning that. And one of the things I've learned is breathe. Don't use wasted energy when you can save that for having a higher endurance in the match and going longer. I guess these are things that I maybe should have learned before, but now I'm learning them. And also want to give a shout out to Nick Taylor, who runs Rice, where we came from. After you left, Nick took over more, and he made sure that we were receiving, the best training that he could possibly give. And he's obviously very gifted, when it comes to training. So again, I wouldn't be here without Nick Taylor. Um, but yeah, it's a conditioning thing, and one thing I do notice is recovery time is a little harder, a little longer the older you get.
Yeah,
Um,
this is
but
the thing.
yeah, yeah, and I didn't realize it before, but
Yeah.
like, damn, so
Yeah, I had a goal this year of like hitting 100 matches by the end of next year. So, like, I'm still pushing for that. Like, I just had my first match. If you guys are wondering, we're actually recording this on the 13th of January. So I had my first match, January 11th, and I drove all the way to Lewistown, Pennsylvania for Honorary Wrestling Federation, and then drove back that same night. And that next morning, I woke up and I was like, all right. I looked my wife in the face. I was like, listen, like, I'm tired. I need a coffee. We're gonna do Christmas. We're gonna do Christmas part two with your family, and then we'll come back home. And man, when I got back home, I was tired. And even today, like man, this morning I was like, I feel like dog shit.
yeah, yeah. But you have that cycle now. don't you? Don't
I
you have
do.
that? That's
I just
right.
I do have that extreme championship now.
There you go. It makes you feel better. See, you're the
Yeah,
champ.
like yeah, I've it was funny because like after I won it, I was in the back, and talking big shit, and I was like, yeah, TBRD, the big rectal disease. I mean, two belt red dog.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Usually one of them is sitting right here, but that one is actually chilling in the car right now because I was like, my gear bag is still in there because I was like,
I don't
I'm
I don't know how you do it. I would be scared to death to leave a title or even my bags. Like maybe it's because of my upbringing, and I I talk professional, okay, when I have to and everything. And then you got this crazy Travis Norbert, but you also got the hood Travis where I came from, the way I grew up. And the way I grew up, you don't leave shit in your car. You lock that
right,
fucking door, you lock your home door, all that. You don't leave nothing in that car, nothing in the front seat, nothing. So I don't know how you I
bro.
don't
I
know.
will leave. I will tell you this: if like where I'm at in Mansfield, like I don't leave a lot of stuff in the car but I do have a lot of tinted windows, and so if you can see something in the back of my car, you deserve to get it because like clearly I
Right.
didn't do a good job. Like you need my protein shakes. Like okay, cool. Go ahead and grab like the protein powder that's in the back seat, bro. Like
Man, these
sustained
junkies
blend
don't
if you want it.
care. They
See
don't
whatever,
care. They maybe can take a protein powder bottle to the pawn shop and get $2 for that. That's all they need, bro. And then you
whatever.
go
And that
pay
two
for
dollars,
broken
bro.
glass.
Whatever that $2 is gonna get them. Like yo, get them their next fix. Whatever. I don't give a shit. Like ain't gonna really fuck with me. I have heard about Hood Travis though. I have heard
You've
about
heard
this.
where and how and what have you heard? Because I'm surprised. I try to
Uh,
hide it.
well, a certain trainer of ours
Oh, okay,
has
yeah,
experienced
okay,
has experienced this version. So I have heard
okay.
stories of this man
All
popping
right, so
out.
you've had a couple things mentioned to you then. Okay, I see, I see.
Yeah. See, like a lot of people forget that, like, when I tell people that I'm the Air Force veteran intel specialist, like a lot of people think it's just like, oh, that's all in kayfabe. Like, no, 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 no. I promise you, it's very much true. I find a lot of random intel out all the time, and I'm just like, yeah, I hear it, and then I go back and talk to people about it, and they're like, man, how did you know about that? I was like, oh, yeah, it's intel. It's good intel.
There you go. Knowledge is power. Knowledge
That's
is
what I
power.
tell people.
Yeah, and I don't talk about it too much, but I got almost 20 years in federal service myself. Believe it or not. So this crazy Travis Norbert character has like a normal, like, responsibility driven daytime career, in civil service. So you couldn't have two more opposites, on the spectrum. So
Yeah. Well, that's like so when, like you said, like when you see me in a ring or something like that, and the attitude, like I look very much like one way, but then once you start having a conversation, when you're like, oh, this dude is just a big love bug, like fuck that guy. And so like even like Red Dog has like this, he has two sides to him too, right? So he has like this very nice playful side, but once you fuck around with that playful side and you piss him off, like there's no real turning back. Like it's just, and that also goes two ways with me. Like I have this very fun, playful side, but you fuck around with the wrong part, and then you're gonna see like the real side of Cliff, and it's not nice. And I know one person in particular who uh who found that out, and he even though he was my vet, he found out very quickly, like, yeah, don't fuck around like that. And he goes back to being, one who's professional, right? But when you become unprofessional, um, I will also become unprofessional, but I
mhm.
will cut you down in ways that you did not know you needed to get cut down, and I will let you know exactly how it goes.
Yeah, you're bringing up, I guess, a sensitive topic in our community. It's that whole vet card, that whole
Yep.
vet thing. There's, I guess, hazing. There's the whole seniority ladder that exists in different areas and different promotions and everything. And gotta be careful not to step over, boundaries here or anything. But you come into this business and you have to have respect for people who came before you. They paid their dues, of course, and I'm still paying a lot of mine. But there comes a point when that whole vet card, that vet has to be checked because you're a man first before you're a
Oh,
worker. You know, when it comes to any kind of like disrespect or anyone crossing the line or uh, harming someone or whatever, you need to be a man in those circumstances. And if that involves stepping up to someone who's a vet over you, I think you need to stand up for yourself and your friends. So,
Yep.
yeah. And that's a thing that I've struggled walking the line with. Because, going in different locker rooms, and I'm going all over the place now, crazy as it sounds. I see so many different cultures and so many different locker rooms, and the dynamic is different, the culture is different, the vet structure, and you see certain good and bad, and you're like, how do I navigate? And eh, I kind of fight with that with one of the greatest lessons of all time that I've ever learned from Moose from TNA. I was with Moose one day, and I know that one of the main things that harms a wrestler's career or becomes an obstacle for them is the backstage politics,
Yep.
right? Or the political situations and diplomacy failures that they might have in their own life, or in the squared circle. And I asked him, I was like, Moose, so one of the biggest roadblocks out there is navigating backstage politics and everything, and it brings so many wrestlers down. How do you what do you recommend for like handling the situations like that? And I was expecting this big, long, philosophical response and maybe 3 or 4 paragraphs. And Moose just looked at me and he's just like, Moose worries about Moose. And that was it. He didn't say anything else after that. And we were like standing there waiting for him to say more. There was
Yeah.
like that dead silence. And we kind of thought it was funny when he said that. But as I go along, the more and more I think about it, it was the greatest wrestling lesson I've ever learned in my life. And it's like the most genius thing I've ever heard. Um, so you have times where you need to step in and address the situation, but I think the compass is to worry about yourself and your career. And
Yeah.
it's I see a lot of guys, and I'll say this too, and it's the God's honest truth. I see a lot of guys stepping on other guys to elevate themselves. I see it, and it frustrates me. If these people would spend more time focused on their own character, their own product, their own promotion, getting themselves out there, improving their craft, it would elevate themselves. But because they're not putting that energy into themselves getting there, they're putting that energy over here on stepping on someone, and they're staying right here, you know? And not only does it do nothing to help that person and just drag them down, it keeps you down as well.
Right.
So the whole stepping on someone to lift yourself up, no, that's got to go. Focus on yourself. Focus on yourself. Don't worry about if this person deserves something or they don't deserve it or whatever. Worry about what you deserve.
Well, and I think about something that Chris Jericho said, right, where he was talking about promos, right? He's like, you never do a promo where you disrespect and cut down your opponent. He's like, it doesn't make sense. Because what happens is if you go and you tell that person, well, I'm better than this person because of this, and then you lose that match, right? The pencil is the most important part of wrestling. Let's be real. And you go out there and you lose. Well, all that shit that you just said, now how does that make you look? Now you look completely stupid.
You look worse. Yeah.
And yeah, and I talk about it all the time with guys. I'm like, listen, man, like at the end of the day, if you want to say something about your opponent, say some positive ass shit and then talk about why you're gonna beat that person. But always, always, always build those guys up because it's important. And like, and it's the same thing. Like, I really believe, rising tides lifts all ships. So if I can drop my rock into the water and I can elevate another person in their talent, I'm going to. Because I think it's important. Like I want, I don't want to sit there and I want to be like, well, I'm gonna win, so we're gonna call this match this way, and I'm gonna come out looking strong. No, I want you to look good too. But
Mhm.
more importantly, like if the story says that I'm gonna go over about a certain way, I'm gonna find a way, the best way to possibly build you up and help put you over at the
Mhm.
same time that I'm putting myself over. Because when you come back and the next person you face or next person you beat, like now you look that much stronger with that person. You're like, well, if Red Dog barely got by that guy, oh well then that other dude and he beat that dude. It's like Red Dog should definitely be able to get by that person. But here's the part. Then I help put that other person over, and guess what? Now that person looks strong too. Like, whoa, I look at Cody Rhodes and like his run in AEW when he had the TNT title and he was having all those matches with like random people and everybody's like, yo, why is like he's having trouble with like, Eddie Kingston when Eddie Kingston first showed up, right? He's having trouble with yeah, I'm trying to think of some of the other people that he was Warhorse. He's having trouble with Warhorse. Like, no. These guys are getting over because Cody doesn't know them, and so because he doesn't know them, they're able to get the one up on him, and it helps with elevate talent. And then when you look at those guys, they're like just still
Mhm.
elevating everybody else above. Like everybody looks good that way, and I think about that a lot, man.
Yeah, that's true. It's you you build more by elevating everybody up around you. You really do. And here's the thing: what we do to, I guess, make ourselves look bigger and better in the ring or whatever, it doesn't matter. I don't think. What I think matters is I'm working with someone. I make them look good. Is what my goal is. My first goal is to make them look good. I had a program with this local guy, Chris White, and I'm feeble and everything, and I did everything in my power to make him look like Incredible Hulk, just invincible, because I want the audience to get behind him. I don't give a shit if they're behind me. That's not my role. My role is to make him look good.
Right.
And in his mind, his thinking should also be, I want Mr. Norbert to look good. So I'm gonna do things to help him claps from the audience or get his comedy routine or whatever. So I think if both people are working to and you both are keeping safety in mind, and your goal is to make sure that that person gets a paycheck the next day, which means don't chop the shit out of them, don't chop them in their throat, don't chop them in their nose, shit like that. Um, if you do that and they're able to go back and work the next day, you're a safe worker. You're respected. You're a professional. But if you go in there and you're trying to just knock down the guy you're working with, you care about nothing but yourself. It's weak. I think it's very weak. We fill a part of a portrait in a wrestling show, and the promoter is the painter. And that promoter wants a certain color painted in. It's our job to fill that role. It's not about me. It's not about how many titles Travis Norbert doesn't win. I don't give a shit. It's not about if I sell the most merch or if I get the most cheers. I want the promotion to be successful. And whatever role that I have, that's what I want to do to the fullest. And I want to work with my partner in that ring to make sure that we both tell some story that takes that audience's mind away from their daily problems for 5 minutes. That's success. If we both work together, we're safe and we're doing what the promoter actually wants. In my mind, that's the goal. You know.
Yeah, I'll be real. I always want shows to elevate and be the best that they can be. I ain't gonna front like I don't sit back and say, I want the audience to go, man, do you remember when Red Dog did this? Or do you remember when Red Dog did that? And when the main event comes through and it finishes and the show ends at the end of the night, I want people to be like, man, where's Red Dog? And Red Dog's not around. Like, I want you to have that moment. I want them to be
Yeah.
like, yo, like Red Dog did. Remember when Red Dog hit this move or Red Dog did that? Like I'll be real. So I was and it's funny because like I'll share something that was shared with in the back, right? For HWF, right, this last weekend, the promoter Matt Silks, who's
Yeah,
also
Matt
been on
does.
this program before.
Yeah, I know Matt. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he's been on this promo. He's been on this program many. Oh, he's been on here twice actually. Um, when he was on the show, well, actually, when I was on his show, he had said, he's like, listen, like Cliff has been here since day one, like day one of Honorary Wrestling Federation, and he's also like, because I moved and I didn't go back for like 18, 19 months. Um, and I had came back and the crowd still popped for me like back in October when I showed up, and then last year or this last weekend, they popped again. Um, but the very first show, right? This is why I'm going with the story. The very first show, I hit this gun spot on Michael Zamidio, and the crowd erupts, laughing their ass off. And I hit this clothesline, this discus clothesline, right? Because that was the gun spot when it first started. It was the very first time I ever hit it was against Michael Zamidio. What made it more memorable was the fact that this kid came up to me and he asked for my autograph, and I signed it. And his dad told me, my son didn't remember your name, but he literally asked me if we can go visit the pew pew guy. Because before I was like pew 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 pew,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and so because of that, oh, I was cracking up, and I was like, okay, so that's exactly what I was looking for. Was I'm trying to have that moment where one person was like, "Where's that guy that hit that weird fucking spot?" Like I now do like the little salsa thing where like, fun fact, so you'll remember this. Uh, Ruckus taught us a lucha drag
Mhm,
at practice,
mhm.
and I use that lucha drag now everywhere. It's a part of my sequence, but I've put my flavor on it where like I throw it out and I like hit like a little salsa pose and then roll them back in. But that's how I hide it in, right? But so now I hit this drag and I hit these lucha drags, but I have kids come up to me and be like, "I love the salsa dance."
Yeah, 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 yeah. Well, I mean, hats off to the promoter because the promoter had that stage there for you, and that aspect of your character is something that he wanted in the part of his painting. So
Right.
that's again, that's the way I look at it. Even if Travis Norbert is remembered at the end of the night, they came up to me or whatever, that's because the promoter wanted the Norbert character to be a part of his show, to be a part of that painting. So it's funny you talk about Ruckus because I actually tagged Ruckus in a match 2 weeks ago, and I don't know how I got to this point in my life. 20 some years ago, I was watching MCW on local television in Maryland. I'm like, God damn, look at this Ruckus guy move! Holy fuck, right? And then I'm like, wow, these guys are crazy. Look how good these wrestlers are. 20 some years later, I'm tagging with them. I mean, it's just Travis Norbert character. It's not like I'm going Chris Benoit or Dean Malenko or Eddie
Right.
Guerrero with him or anything, but still, the fact that I'm, in a ring with him, it's crazy. And um, going back to some of the training classes, just after you left, Ruckus came up a couple times also and spent some time with us, and I was just blown away that wow, that's Ruckus. Wow, he's here hanging out. He's teaching us some stuff. That's cool. So that's something. That's something a lot of people don't get access to. Is especially where we came from. I mean, we had a Hall of Famer, the Indie
Yeah.
Hall of Famer, come up and like spend time with us, to be invested in us. It motivates you.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because like a lot of people ask me too. They're like, "Who's your trainer?" And I was like, "Well, my trainer is Sickin, out of Sykesville, Maryland, and Ruckus." And people were like, "Who?" And I was like, "Ruckus." They're like the Ruckus? I was like, "Yeah, like the Ruckus." I was like, and it's cool to be able to sit back and say, "Yeah, I've gone through, I've learned a lot of stuff from Ruckus." And obviously, like Nick is my base, right? Like he's obviously set the ground platform, but to also be trained and taught things from like and I know it's not the most popular name in the world. People don't really like this person, right? But James Ellsworth is another person who's invested time into me, and I'm grateful for it, right? To be able to sit back and learn how to throw a worker's punch from somebody who literally, that's
Hmm.
the and I feel people don't realize it. That's how James Ellsworth got his spot in the E. Was he had this match with Braun Strowman, right? But before that, Arn and Jimmy will tell you the same story. Okay, James will tell you the same story, but he was in the E. He was asked by a certain person, a producer, "Hey, can you throw a punch?" He threw the punch. It looked really good. He's like, "Could you do it again?" Because he thought it was a fluke. He did it again. He's like, "Can you throw it on this person?" It was Braun. He said, "Sure." He did it again. And guess what? This man was like, "All right." He was the first person. They moved everybody else out the ring, and they had him here. So to learn how to throw a worker's punch from that guy,
Hmm.
who then had a 9 month run doing all sorts of comedy bits. Like, yo, I was like, yo, that's it. Like,
Hmm.
duh. I was like, this is supposed to work that way.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, and I guess maybe with age, maybe I'm a little more adamant about this, but I don't care if people are going to judge me by who my friends are. I don't give a shit. I'll say this about James Ellsworth. Jimmy has been a friend to me. I talked to Jimmy on the phone the other day. Jimmy has been there for me when my father passed away. He treats me like gold, and I don't care what problems other people have with him. I know that he treats me a certain way, and I've only seen him in a certain light. So I respect him. I consider him as a friend. There's a wealth of knowledge that he has. and I think a lot of people would pay a lot of money to get some of that knowledge he has. It's very valuable. Um, so yeah, he shared some of the stories with me about his facial expressions are one of the other reasons why he got to the E was he was so animated and so good at them and so believable, and he knew where the cameras were and everything. And Randy Orton saw that and went to Vince and said, "Hey, you got to check this out." And a lot of these things you might not necessarily get uh, uh, the knowledge that he has from some of these other places. So I consider myself lucky to have him as a friend and to have his ear sometimes when I need it. I called him up last week for some advice on some other stuff. So, but yeah, like I guess people who are just getting in are more cautious with
Yeah.
how they're perceived with their friendships with certain people. Me, again, if they treat me like gold, you know,
Yeah.
I, so
And but again, like it goes back because I've actually mentioned this to a couple other people too. And it was something that James said at Rich Swan's seminar that I had went to. Right. He goes, listen, when you get to meet people like whoever that came out of E, understand that they've gone and trained at the Yale and Harvard of
right.
this business and ask questions. And so I will literally have a conversation and and I'm trying to remember who else I ran into. I ran into a couple other people who have trained and worked for the E, and I'll ask them questions. Just be like, hey man, like in this situation, how would you want to handle this? Or how would you do, show me something that I could only find here. And they're more than willing to help out. But then they're like, why are you asking me all these questions? Like, because you have literally trained at the Harvard or the Yale of
Mhm.
professional wrestling. Like,
Right.
it's not like, okay, so and I'll keep it a buck, right? Travis and myself understand the E probably is not going to be calling us. Like, let's keep it a buck. But you know, if I'm able to sit back and pick the brains of former WWE superstars, you better believe I'm picking the brains of former WWE superstars because they might share something that it'll pass down to me. I may pass that information to somebody, and they might blow up because of it. I, my dream originally, right, getting into the wrestling business, my dream was like I wanted to be a WrestleMania because I mean, who doesn't?
Mm.
When I got older and I got into the business finally, I was like, you know what? I just want to see if I can hang and bang. That was literally the goal. Can I get in this ring and can I have some fun and can I do some things that you know most people only dream about doing?
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
And 5 years later, like I'm here now and I'm still doing this thing. I'm still hanging out. I'm still having fun, and I think that's very important. Like could the E call? Sure, they could. I don't really expect them to.
Well, I'll say this: like, I am happy that I am entertaining people. If I'm in a ring and I have an audience in front of me, I am happy with that. I'm privileged, and it makes me feel successful. It makes me feel like I'm living out one of my purposes in life is to entertain people and take them away from daily issues. Um, but I have the goal of getting further, much further. I think I'm capable of it, and I think my character can help me get to places where other people might not want me to get. There's jealousy.
Right.
I'm learning that jealousy is a thing now. Wow. So I am make it my goal to get as far as, but I don't want to lose myself along the way and still not enjoy the place that I'm currently living in.
Yeah.
Makes sense. So yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like that. I just want to be lost in the moment. That's where I want to be at right now.
Yeah.
I don't know. For me, because I think when I got into this originally, I gave myself like this 10-year window. So from like 34 to like 44, 45, I was gonna be like, yeah. And then that was just gonna be it. I'll transition my role out somewhere else and just still enjoy being in the business. I love professional wrestling.
Mhm.
I don't always care about the business side of it. I just love being a part of the atmosphere and how much fun I get to have watching people do their thing or just me doing my thing. Like it's just it's always entertaining just to have sit back and forget that there's some shitty things happening in the world, and then for
Mhm, mhm.
3 hours, 4 hours, I get to just have fun and make fun of people, boo people. I get to cheer people on. That's what I love about professional wrestling and
Yeah.
being in the world too. I get to be one of those guys. Like I'm one of those guys who kids get to be like, I want to be like him, right? And when I was a kid, I had my people that I was like, and not even just wrestlers. I was There's this guy named Ricky, man. He was a race car driver, and I always thought I was gonna be like, I'm gonna be a race car driver. Nope, but I'm still doing something that I want some kid to be like, yo, like there was this guy, his name was Red Dog. He was wild, he was funny, and like now I, I did it because of him, and all I get to do, I just get to be that small moment of someone's life, that 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20, 15 minutes. I was just entertaining enough that he was like, that's what I want to do. That was my moment that I got into professional wrestling, that I want to get into professional wrestling.
And I'll tell you what, for me, my therapy, I said this the other day, my therapy is wrestling. You're breathing really loud, or that's the mic. Is that my mic? Is that yours?
It could
Uh,
be.
okay. It's my therapy is wrestling. Like I go out there and it helps me get away from my own, daily stressors, so when I go through that curtain, I don't hear like the audience in a way. Like I don't see them. I kind of just go into this trance of Travis Norbert, and I'm living another character, and I'm living through his expressions. If that makes any sense, I could have 10,000 people in front of me or 20,000, and I don't think I would be nervous. I don't think I would be stressed. I don't think I would perform any differently. Um, and it's it's very stress relieving to get into that ring, live this character out. You can argue with fans. You can make them laugh. You can make them angry. You can. I was talking to Chris Slade about this a while ago. It's having the gift to be a like
A
uh,
maestro.
yes, of an audience and direct the wave or the of the song the way that you want it. There's something magical about that, and there's something that gives you a high. It's hard to explain. Um, and again, I never even thought I would be in the position I'm in now, where I'm in multiple rings and multiple weekends. I'm in different states, and I mean, I even somehow got into a collectible card from one of these promotions. It's crazy, and I got people like cutting out cardboard heads of Travis Norbert and taking time out to draw this stuff and everything. And I'm like, damn, I really like help that person like take their mind off of their issues, and that motivates me to keep going and to take it to the next level and to go even further. But what motivates me even more is someone telling me I can't do something.
Yeah.
The number one motivation I've ever had in my life, and the thing that motivates me more than anything in the world, is telling me I can't do something. That's all I need. That will spark me to get to where I need to go, right there. Um, it, I think who was this? Robert Kennedy. I think one time I think he said something to the effect of, if you plan or aspire to get to Mars, but you only get to the moon, look how fast or look how far you've actually come because you plan to get to that pinnacle.
Yeah.
You definitely got to a place far beyond where you started from. And it's all because of that motivation that you had initially. So,
Yeah, I remember my when I started training, like I remember Nick asked me like what my goals were, and I was like, I really just kind of want to get into this business and just kind of figure it out. Um, and so I was like, I'm not quite sure where I want to head to in this business. I'm just gonna kind of try to think about it.
mhm.
And then what ended up happening was I found like I was like, oh, I want to get in the ring. I want to do a couple matches, and then like next thing you know, like here I am working like match after match, and it's 2020. And I think the funny part about it was, and you're kind of doing the same thing that I was doing. I at first was like trying to figure out I was like, man, I was like, can I really do this? And then COVID happened, and I was
Mhm.
like, maybe that's, and I legit thought to myself, maybe that's God way of telling me like, hey, yo, like this is gonna be for you. But you tried, and it didn't work out. So I was like, let me keep trying. So May came around. I had a practice match with a great friend of mine, Max Morrison, and I had this match with Mad Max, this practice match, and it didn't go very well. Um, and I was like, damn, maybe this is the moment that I'm supposed to like just, hey, it's not gonna happen for you. And then kept working at it, kept working at it, got a little bit better, got a little bit better. Was getting ready to make my debut at a show, tear my abdomen, and I was like, okay, maybe this is the moment that I'm not supposed to be in. Maybe this is the moment. And I was like, I don't know, we'll keep trying. So we kept trying, kept trying. Had a
Mhm.
couple matches. I don't think I had like 4 matches in like 2020. But the more I start to push, the more I'm like, I don't know where I'm gonna go. I don't know how far I'm gonna go. I don't know where I'm gonna go. I don't know what's gonna happen. I was like, I'm just glad that I'm on the road. And you're right. When I look back at it, I was like, bro, I could not imagine some of the things that I've done now, knowing as a kid, I was like, bro, I watched certain people on TV and I'm on the same show as those people who were on TV. And it's crazy.
Mhm. Mhm. I just got the chance to spend some time with Douglas, ECW, and WWE and everything, and um, I had him come over to me, and I didn't even know who it was, but tapped me on my shoulder and leaned into me, and he said, "How was your bump?" And I was, oh, I'm fine." You know what I mean? Like he was actually like checking in on me. You know what I mean? It was weird. It's like Shane Douglas checking in on me if I'm okay after taking a bump. A couple weeks ago, I had Nikita Koloff come up to me afterwards, and I didn't expect him to even be watching anything I was doing, and he was watching the whole thing apparently. But came up to me without me even introducing myself, and he's like, "That was a great bump you took." And I was like, "Holy shit, that guy just complimented me," you know. But I again, I am lucky and I'm honored to be able to network and to meet and to share a locker room with a lot of these people. I Matt Riddle, I'm friends with. I've spent 2 hours straight with Arn Anderson. I saw Arn at a convention. We talk. Um, you see Kurt Angle, JBL, Teddy Long, Tony Atlas, who he is such a nice person. Let me talk about Tony Atlas. So I went up to Tony, and I have no assumption that he knows who the hell I am. I have no assumption that he's a wrestler or a manager or a real state athletic commissioner or just a fan or whatever. I have no assumption because I'm a nobody to him. And I go up to him. I'm like, "Hey," and I'm trying to be like in my character a little bit. And I was just like, "Yeah, hey Tony, I'm Travis Norbert, head of the state athletic commission. And a lot of these people, they don't like me. They really hate my guts." Tony thought that was my real voice, I think, and he thought I was the like a real state athletic commissioner, and he felt sorry for me, and he talked to me with this really soft voice, and he said, "Don't worry, my brother. We're all children of the Lord. Everybody gets love from the Lord above. Don't worry." And I was like, "No, Tony, that's my gimmick." He's like, "Oh, oh." You know. But the fact that he came at me like that, like and he was like very genuine with like me wanting to feel better about myself or feel loved. It was just it's crazy, but I just had to throw that in there. But
No, it's hilarious.
going going back, um, it, what was I gonna say about the actual wrestling part though? Like, I don't know quit. I don't know once I commit myself. I don't know how to. I quit's not my vocabulary. It's like when
Right.
I broke my jaw in a wrestling match, and I finished the match.
You did. You did finish it.
I I had more spots to do in the match. I did it, and then I knew there was a spot where we had to take a bump outside. And after my jaw was hanging off my face, I said, "All right, let's go out and take a bump." And we go outside, and I take another bump. And then I had surgery a day or two later, and I woke up from the anesthesia, and I couldn't quit. I was like, "All right, let's cut a promo." So I started cutting a promo while I'm on narcotics, and I live, eat, and breathe. Besides my day career, besides my family, it is wrestling. That is all I think about, and it's about Travis Norbert. I don't know how to quit. I'm not going to quit. I see myself getting to television. I'll tell you that right now. I make no mistakes about it. That's where I want to be. And I wish I would have said that 2 years ago when I first started training. I wish I would have known that was my end goal from there, because I think some people that I met along the way might have taken me a little bit serious, because my answers back then were, "Oh, I just want to have fun,"
Yeah,
you know, and I didn't have the clarity that I think I have now, because I know where I want to go and I'm going to get there. Period. That's it. Um, but also saying that 20 some years ago, my God, I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have started 20 some years ago. Oh my God. Uh, but then again, I've had people wiser than me say, well, maybe you weren't mentally ready to do it 20 years ago. I could have been in a situation where maybe I destroyed myself or destroyed my opportunities myself with my immaturity back then. So now, when I'm more mature and able to handle XYZ, it's being given to you.
yeah.
So it's all about perspective, and timing.
That
So.
is a good. Like, I know for me, I thought the same thing. So, like I know, like the first job when I got the military, like, the first place I applied.
I'm losing your audio there. Can you repeat that? Say it again.
Yeah. So I remember like the first job I applied for out of the military, right? After I got cut from a contract. After that, I applied for the WWE as a writer. Like that was the only thing I thought about. I was like, well, this is something I love doing. Like, let's do this. And funny enough, I was actually living in Massachusetts at the time. I was like, yo, let's do this. Let's aim high for it. Whatever happens, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. And I wish I would have tried to find indie wrestling at that time. Like
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that there were schools. I didn't know how to get involved. I was just like, I don't know. I wish I would have tried. And then I wish I would have tried when I was in Florida. I had a friend who was a professional wrestler, crazy enough, who just got back into the business. And he was like, hey, maybe I can wrestle you sometime. And I was like, absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but, he said the same thing. And I was like, yeah, you know what? And I think now that I'm in it now, I'm like, yeah. And I never thought about it in that perspective that, maybe I just wasn't mature enough to handle it then. But at this point, like I'm a lot more mature. At least I like to think so. That I can handle it. I can handle the things a little bit differently, and I don't have to get all wound up about stuff. Because I remember I lost my cool one time at Nick's house, and I don't know if he's ever told you that story, and I don't think I've ever told it here. But we had a practice match. It was me and Will Knox. We had a practice match, and it was being agent by another person. Um, and it went bad, like horribly bad. And I remember just being so mad at myself and losing myself, like just period. Like I just lost my cool. I remember getting upset and I was mad. I was irritated, and I was like, man, I'm missing. I'm missing. This is stupid. What am I doing? And and Nick sat down. And he was like, bro, we're gonna have a conversation. Like you're never gonna do that again. As long as you're here at this house, you're never gonna do that thing again. And since that moment, I don't want to say never. I probably 95% of the time haven't like lost my cool. And even at 5% of that time, it's been like I wish I would have not done that. I wish I would have done this better. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah,
never.
I have like moments where I am very critical of myself. And when I either have a match or so I do some character work, in ring promo or whatever, or managing someone or whatever. When I'm in the moment, I always think I've done worse than what I really do, and I tend to beat myself up while I'm doing it or just after I do it, unfortunately. And then I kind of go back and get behind the curtain. I'm like, I don't know how that was. I probably could have done better or whatever. And I kind of get mad at myself. There have been times in the ring where working a match or whatever, and things don't go to plan. I've never gotten mad at another person. I get mad at myself. And in my youth, I would have been the person to start breaking things and slamming my arms around and fists or whatever, even being angry at myself. Now I don't have that, or at least I have that contained more now.
Right.
You know? So I don't want to say I have it completely gone, because it's not. It's still. But um, and it's hard to sit back and criticize and say, "Oh, well, you should never lose your temper or whatever when you're working a match." When you have that much adrenaline going and you're in the moment and everything, you are on this natural chemical stuff that's manipulating your brain and everything. You might not be even thinking straight. Like even when I broke my jaw, I wasn't thinking straight. I was thinking, "Oh, I'm just going to go. Yeah, my jaw's probably broken. I don't give. I'm just going home. I don't want to deal with it." Everybody telling me, no, you got to go to the fucking ER. I had Dr. Frank from WWE there, and he's like, yeah, you're going to the fucking ER right now, mister. And I'm like, no, I'm going home. He's like, no, you're going to the fucking ER. And I go there, and they're like, yeah, your throat might close up and swell up, so we're going to have to air you on a helicopter to shock trauma. you know, and the adrenaline at the time when I was just getting out of the mat, I was like, fuck it, I'm going home. I'm just going to let this heal on its own or whatever. Hard headed. But again, like when you're in there, there's so much primal energy and primal rage going on and everything. It's easy. It's very easy to cool with someone else or lose cool with yourself. In my case, it's 9 times out of 10 with myself. Um, but either way, other people can see that and they could be disappointed in you that you express
Yeah.
that whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So it's important to have the ability to contain that. When I was younger, I could not. When I was younger, I had a temper far worse than I have now. So, but thankfully, through time and trials and tribulations and grace and everything else, I've learned to control myself and channel that energy. One of the things I've learned from this character is it's an outlet. And if I have all this built up inside, and I get this crazy Norbert character, he's taking signs from fans and elbow dropping in the ring and everything, and he's chewing in their faces and telling them don't ever reproduce and stay a virgin, all this other stuff. It's all that energy that I naturally had, all of that force, I can now channel it into something productive and something creative.
Right.
And maybe in the past it was there with no clear outlet. And then maybe when something primal happened, then okay, there's an opening, pow, there it goes. You know what I mean? So again, like wrestling is just my therapy. And but going back to what you were saying about losing yourself in a match and everything, it's easy. It's very easy to do.
Yep. Listen, man. I have loved this conversation, but I gotta take this over to the best part of the three count podcast, which is the three count podcast, 10 count questions. Mr. Norbert, this is how it works. I'm gonna fire off 10 questions at you rapid fast, and I need you to have an answer. And whatever your answer is, that's kind of your answer. You don't get it. You don't get a second chance.
No take backsies.
No take backsies. Maybe one take backsies. But we're gonna put on the imaginary timer for add pressure. Bing. And in the words of my favorite commentator, Mike Goldberg, here we go. SmackDown or Raw?
Raw.
Favorite movie?
Hearts in Atlantis.
Let's go. Marvel or DC?
Marvel.
Favorite TV show?
Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Let's go. That's a great pick. Waffles or pancakes?
Pancakes.
Favorite cartoon?
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Which version?
1988.
I like that version. Apple or Android?
Apple.
Favorite podcast?
The 3 count.
That's right. It's the only one that we have marketed everywhere. Nominate one person that you want to see on this podcast.
Nair Robles. Has she been on?
She has been on the show.
Sugar Dan.
Who?
Sugar Dan.
Sugar
Stop.
Dan definitely is going to be on this podcast. I have all that's going to happen. And last but not least, my favorite question asked every single person who comes on the show. Favorite curse word?
Fuck.
It's got to be. It's the greatest word ever.
There's other curse words?
I didn't know that until recently. This podcast taught me so much. Yo, those are all my questions I have, but all I need you to do is let our listeners and our viewers know where they can find you.
All right. You can find me on Facebook. Just search for Travis Norbert. You can find me on X, Travis Norbert. You can find me on Instagram under the name Real Travis Norbert. There are fakes out there already. And there's also a YouTube channel for Travis Norbert. I've tried to make myself very findable. Is that a word? It is now.
It is now. And I love the fact that like you it's something that I preach a lot to a lot of people. It's like get your handles all the same. Make it easy for everybody to find you because
Right.
if it I on this I'm such and such and such one, and on this one I'm one such and such and such and such and such. Like hey man, listen, like the underscore red dog on all social media platforms, you'll find me, I promise you.
Are you saying it's hard to find Evan197 Pixiefly44? It's hard to.
Right. Like that one dude that had the tag, it was like too cool for 69 2003. Like clearly that guy never did that ever.
Yeah, yeah.
That's that I'm not looking all that up.
No,
No.
that's a basement dweller right there.
Yeah. But he gave you all of his handles. He told you where you can find him. So like every great part of a wrestling match, we gotta take this home because this is the Three Count Podcast presents Now Entering, and I'm your host Clifford Red Dog Miller, the man that leads you up that mountain called wrestling. And like every good show, it's never about me. It's about who's entering. So who's entering? You see him right there. The State Athletic Commission, the leader of the Regulation Nation himself, Travis Norbert. And you guys know what to do. Tune into the next episode and be there, or you're literally following us on all of our social media platforms, or even checking us out on our YouTube channel. You're following us on Spotify. You're checking us out on Amazon Music. You're even listening to us on that dumb app with the stupid jingle that goes iHeartRadio or whatever it is.
Mm.
You're buying our merch on ProWrestlingTees.com, or you're buying our merch on ForYourWear.com. You're telling your mom about us, your dad about us, your aunties, your uncles, your brothers, your sisters, your cousins, your best friends, and your enemies, because we love haters too. You're doing all that stuff, or really you're just kind of waiting for this episode to end. You're waiting for the outro, and then you're choosing another episode to listen to. Kawaii.
That's right.
What's up? It is your friendly neighborhood Red Dog, and thank you for checking out this episode of the Three Count Podcast. Whether that was Chaz friends, Red Dog friends, Damien friends, the Film Styles, now into the ring, now entering 201, or now returning to the ring, all those great episodes. You should really be liking, commenting, and even sharing this with your friends, family, whoever it may be. But what you all should be doing is checking us out on all of our social media platforms at 3 Count Pod, whether that's on IG, Twitch, you can check us out on Threads, whatever it may be. And if you go check us out on X, it is 3count_pod. Check us out on YouTube, as well as Facebook, on Rumble, on Apple Music, on Spotify, all those fun things. Tell your mom about us, your dad about us, your aunties, your uncles, your brothers, your sisters, your cousins, and your best friends and your enemies, because we love haters too. Do all that stuff, and then, last but not least, buy our merch on ForYourWear.com or ProWrestlingTees.com. Kawaii.